Barbara comfortably settled into the chair with a cup of fragrant tea. The workweek was behind her. She was lucky with her new job. She was particularly pleased with the head of the department where Barbara works. Absolutely kind-hearted, fair, and calm. Such qualities are rare nowadays. Barbara's idle thoughts were interrupted by a phone call. It was Alla, a longtime friend. As young girls, Barbara and Alla studied together at a technical college. Since then, they have been friends. 19 years of friendship, even though they live in different cities. Hello, I'm glad to hear from you. Hi, Barbara, I'm also very glad. Listen, I'll be coming to your city for the weekend tomorrow. Can I stay with you? Of course, you can. Where else would you stay if not with me? I live alone, you won't be crowding me. Do you have any business in the city? Is everything okay? Yes, everything's as usual. I have an idea. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow. All right. But you've intrigued me. I'll be waiting. See you tomorrow. Goodbye. Barbara had everything ready for her friend's arrival. The apartment was clean, the table was set. They met like family. It had been a long time since they last saw each other. For the past 6 months, they mainly kept in touch through social media messages. The initial greetings were exchanged, and the obligatory questions were asked. And now the two girls were sitting at the table. You really cook well, Barbara. And your ex left you? Just for this skill alone, he should have appreciated you. A younger one lured him away, so he left. And you've changed a lot. New haircut, hair color, bright makeup. Just like in our youth. You don't look 37 at all. Has someone appeared in your life? You could say that. Remember, when I was studying here at the technical college, I dated Pavel? Of course, I remember. Not a beauty, but well-mannered. And such a romantic. I remember he always wrote you poems. That's all he could do, pressure me with poems. A poor student at that time. So, he recently came to our small town on a business trip, and I happened to meet him. If only you knew how much he's changed. From a skinny, shy guy into a rugged man. Sporty, dressed to the nines. Works as a journalist. Right, he was studying philology at the university. He was just finishing it when you met. I kept in touch with him for a while after you left. He always asked about you. If only you knew how many times I've regretted choosing Alexander over him. And when I recently met Pavel, I realized even more the mistake I had made. I tried to fix that mistake 5 years after I left Pavel. I never told you, I was ashamed. What are you talking about now? You already know that in my youth I dated Alexander in my town. And when I came here, I started a relationship with Pavel. Pavel knew I was waiting for Alexander to return from the army. When I was almost done with my studies and Alexander came back from the army, Pavel gave me an ultimatum. It was either him or nothing. I had to choose one. I chose Alexander and went back to my town. I've heard this story many times from you. Was there more to it? You know how Alexander used to hit me, then he started raising his hand to our son. I left him. I felt so bad that I came here, met with Pavel, waited for him near his house. I remember asking him then if he would take me back. He said that train had left. And then his pregnant wife came out of the entrance with a child by the hand. He took her by the arm and left without looking back. I was so ashamed, you can't imagine. And on top of that, I felt offended. He used to say he loved me madly, couldn't live without me. And it seems he married almost immediately after we broke up. Only 5 years had passed, and he already had a wife who was pregnant with their second, while the first child looked 3 or 4 years old. Well, nothing, all is well after all. You chose someone else yourself. Men find new love quickly. They are not like us, they don't suffer for long. Maybe you're right. But it still hurt at that moment. I loved him too, just chose someone more promising. Alexander wanted to become a policeman. He had a good house, almost his own. He lived there with his grandma. And Pavel, what, communal poverty. Plus a philologist. I didn't understand what he would become after finishing university. Thought he might become a librarian or a teacher. And look at him now, a famous journalist. What do you want from him now? We've been actively corresponding. And when we met recently, he showered me with so many compliments, saying I'm still as beautiful and haven't changed a bit. I was completely melted. I got hopeful that our relationship could reignite with new strength. What, are you starting something with a married man? Not yet, but I plan to. I want to find a job here, then sell my apartment in my town. I'll buy one here. Closer to Pavel. Plus, my son is planning to leave after 9th grade. He'll come to your city to apply for college. It would be great if he's under my supervision here. You managed to study here, without parental supervision, back in your day. I was older when I enrolled, but he's just after 9th grade. Still a boy. God forbid he gets involved with bad company. You wouldn't understand my worries. You don't have kids. But thanks for reminding me, Alla. Oh, come on, I didn't mean any harm. I need your help. Could you put in a good word for me at your job? Let them hire me. You boasted about your good job. I need to find a job here first, then sort out the housing. And Pavel. Isn't your Pavel already married? A wife is not an obstacle, she'll move aside. You also took your ex from his wife. Everyone does it. That's life. Hey, no, don't confuse things. I didn't know my guy was married. And when I found out, I left immediately. It was he who divorced later. Then he found me, and we got married. A significant difference. Married men are off limits for me. I don't understand how you decided on such a thing. To get involved with a married man with children. I don't believe it. Did he promise you anything? No, but our correspondence is quite intimate. I know all about his personal life and feel that I'm of interest to him. Otherwise, he wouldn't write. He's just not ready to take a more serious step yet. But I'll press him. That's why I came here. Will you help me with the job? How can I help? I've only been working there for 3 months myself. But you're in good standing and friendly with the head of the department. Ah, my tongue, my enemy. Alright, I'll try to talk to Ms. Evgenia. But you should really forget about Pavel. What was. You're completely different people now. It's not worth breaking up someone else's family. Alla tried for a long time to convince Barbara that there was nothing reprehensible in her actions. Whether the loved one is married or not doesn't matter. She insisted that love requires sacrifices. The more Alla developed this topic, the more Barbara realized she didn't know her friend well. And she became less and less inclined to help her with the job. However, Barbara helped her friend since she had promised. By Monday, she had spoken with the department head about Alla. A position was conveniently becoming available. An employee was about to go on maternity leave. Alla went for an interview. She was hired on a probationary basis. Almost immediately after Alla's arrival at the office, strange events began to unfold. It was Alla's 3rd day at work. Everyone was diligently working on a large and important project. By evening, they had finished and went home. The next day, the department head, Ms. Evgenia, would send the project for approval to the senior management. And then, if there were no revisions, they would present the project to the client. The next morning, there was chaos in the office. The project had disappeared from the head's possession. Both the printed and the electronic versions were gone. Even the USB drive with the project was missing. All source files from the employees' computers were also deleted. Ms. Evgenia was hysterical. Barbara had never seen her like that. The management was due to arrive any minute. And it was unclear why the director and his deputy were coming personally. Projects used to be sent for approval via email. They were saved by a colleague, Anastasia. Just when the general director was about to reprimand everyone, she appeared in the office. By sheer luck, Anastasia had a USB drive with a copy of the project. She had copied it for herself to think over a detail at home in the evening. That day, they never figured out how all the necessary information disappeared from the computers. But many thought Anastasia had orchestrated it all to get closer to the management. She indeed received praise for her foresight, while Ms. Evgenia was reprimanded. She was seen with red eyes all day long. They had barely forgotten this incident when the management unexpectedly paid them another visit. What's even stranger, Ms. Evgenia was sleeping in her office. No one expected that from her. And when they woke her up, she was disoriented. At the same time, there was a smell of alcohol in her office, as if alcohol had been spilled. Everyone was scared, thinking Ms. Evgenia would be fired. They even made it known that staff changes were coming soon. Barbara couldn't believe her eyes. She decided to talk to Evgenia to find out what was going on. Then she sent her home in a taxi. They have a friendly relationship. Ms. Evgenia, is everything all right? Barbara, come in. Help me up. My legs aren't listening, and my tongue is tied. And I'm so sleepy. But I'm not drunk, I didn't drink alcohol. I don't even consume it. Take me to the sink. Evgenia's words were barely coherent, and when she stood up, she swayed. Let's go, I'll walk you. Barbara, call me a taxi, please, while I wash up here. Barbara called a taxi. Evgenia made it back to the office on her own. God, what a terrible smell. But I didn't drink, I know that for sure. Evgenia broke down in tears. I feel so bad. I think I'll go to the hospital. Should I call an ambulance? No need, Barbara, a taxi will be faster. And my husband will pick me up from the hospital. You know, Barbara, something strange has been happening at work lately. And these silly letters are upsetting my nerves. What letters? Recently, I've been receiving SMS messages supposedly from my husband's mistress. I'm sure my husband is faithful. But these messages irritate me. It's all very strange. Very strange. Ms. Evgenia went to the hospital. In the evening, Barbara and Alla discussed the story. Barbara confided to her friend that Evgenia likely drank because of the stress, not realizing her limits. She never used to drink. And she likely drank because of messages from the woman her husband is seeing. How Barbara regretted sharing that information with Alla. By the morning, the entire office knew that Ms. Evgenia's husband has a mistress. That's why she's drinking. It was clear who spread the news. That day, Barbara and Alla had a serious argument, and Barbara told her to start looking for her own place to live. The next week passed without surprises. Aside from the gossip about the manager. Friday. Lunchtime had just ended. Ms. Evgenia called Barbara to her office. Come in, Barbara. There was a chill in Evgenia's voice. Take a seat. How long have you known Alla? We've been acquainted for almost 20 years, we're good friends. Why did you ask about getting her a job with us? Did you suggest she apply here, or was it her initiative? She asked me to inquire if there were any vacancies. It would have probably taken her a long time to find a job on her own. I see. Now explain to me why your friend Alla wants me to be fired. What are you saying? That can't be. At least, I don't know anything about it. I thought you were aware and in cahoots with her. The entire office is gossiping about my husband's supposed mistress, something I only told you. Evgenia seemed deflated. From the start, it was clear she was determined, but she lacked resolve. Tears welled up in her eyes. Barbara felt utterly ashamed. Ms. Evgenia, please forgive me. I accidentally let it slip in front of my friend Alla. I didn't expect her to blab to everyone. Turns out, I didn't know her well. Forgive me. What's done is done, Evgenia waved it off, deep in thought. And again, it's Alla. I'll tell you something about her now. Then you'll call her here. I really hope she'll tell us the whole truth herself. After all, you're a victim too. She used you. I'll explain how now. Barbara nodded. Remember, I felt sick. I even went to the hospital. Well, it turned out I overdosed on sleeping pills. The thing is, I don't take them. I realized someone had spiked me to set me up. And the management didn't plan to visit our department that day. But they somehow did. I remembered how all the information on an important project disappeared. I connected these events. Understood that someone wants me fired. Could it really be Alla? I thought the same, because all the bad events started after she joined our department. But I had no proof. Listen further. In the hospital, they put me on a drip. My husband drove me back to the office. It was already night. He helped set up a hidden camera in the office. I realized that attempts to discredit me in the eyes of the management would repeat. And now, watch this video. Evgenia turned the laptop towards Barbara. She pressed play. On the screen, Barbara saw the manager's office. Here, the door opens. Alla comes in. She quickly walks to a small table where there's a jug of drinking water. She pours something into it and leaves. That's it. I watched this video from my car. It happened today during lunch when everyone went to the cafe. Alla caught up with everyone later. I returned to the office. I searched through the drawers of her desk. I found a small bottle there, with a liquid containing alcohol. I assumed she wanted to wait until I fell asleep. Then come into my office and spill this liquid in several places. And finally, anonymously report to the management. Something like that. Now you can call Alla. Let her explain why she started all this mischief. Barbara sat in shock. If she hadn't seen this video herself, she wouldn't have believed it. Why is Alla setting her up like this, and what's her issue with Evgenia? Barbara brought Alla in. Ms. Evgenia showed her the video and asked her why she needed this. Do you really want to take my place and become the department head? Well, since you've seen everything, I won't deny it. I don't care about getting promoted. I came here only to get you fired. Alla glared angrily at Evgenia. Why do you want this, Alla? Barbara still couldn't understand what her friend was capable of. Why? Because once she's fired, the guys don't like housewives who sit on their necks. Pavel will divorce her. What does Pavel have to do with this? Barbara stopped understanding anything. My husband's name is Pavel, Evgenia replied. I think I understand. The text messages are also your doing. Alla frowned, but didn't say a word. It became clear that she's also the one writing the messages. I had no idea. So your ex-boyfriend from your youth is Ms. Evgenia's husband, and you deliberately got a job here to cause trouble. And you intentionally didn't tell me about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have helped you. Yes, indeed. Why did you even think Pavel would leave his wife? Do you think just because your ex-husband left you because you were hanging on his neck, that all men are like that? Naive. Barbara felt disgusted being in the same room with Alla. You're the naive one. Everything is fine with us. He loves me. We communicate closely in our correspondence. Now it's all clear to me. Alla, sit down and listen. Evgenia pulled a chair closer to Alla. My husband is not only a journalist but also a successful writer. He writes novels. You simply can't invent character traits like that out of thin air. That's why Pavel communicates a lot. He maintains good relationships with everyone. And he won't leave unanswered the person who first writes to him. He's naturally sociable. And it's necessary for his work. Alla even opened her mouth in surprise. So he's just communicating with me like that? I explained it to you. Everything is clear. I'll have to tell my husband everything. He'll definitely get in touch with you and explain. I think he'll say the same thing. I think now he'll be more restrained in his communication. I've spoken to him about it many times. I told him that women might misunderstand. But he has one answer. I have a similar character in my novel. I need to get to know the person better. It's more believable that way. That's why my books are read. Because the characters in them are real. My Pavel is a self-made person. He's achieved everything in life. His life is stable. He won't change anything. Besides us, he doesn't need anyone else. By the way, you're right, Barbara. If I leave my job, my husband will actually be happy. His earnings are enough for us to live comfortably. And you, Alla, can write your resignation letter right now. That's how Barbara's friend turned out to be nothing. She tried to destroy someone else's family. She lost her friend, ruined her friendship with Pavel, lost a promising position. She left like a beaten dog. Especially Pavel surprised her. He wrote to her to forget him forever. That's it, without any explanations. She felt sorry for Alla for some reason. She couldn't help it. She lived without love and support for so many years, that's why she did foolish things. As they say, she's lost her marbles at almost 40.